Hi everyone, this is Elaine. Welcome to Flat Earth for Dummies 101. Definition of dummy: indoctrinated in globe from birth. A spinning globe is only true in fairy tales. Only the truth will set you free. The lies were out to get me, to feast upon my brain. Freemasonic wormholes were to blame. Then I saw the way. Now I'm a flat earther. There is no curve, no globe in my mind. The earth is flat. We're the believers, don't eat the deceivers, those who lie.
As above, so below. In 1960, David Latimer lowered one seed into compost in a bottle, watered it, and sealed it. He only added water once more in 1972, and his tree is still alive to this day, 60 years later, last watered 48 years ago. Recently, a story has been going around that a massive root system 4 miles deep and 4 to 7 miles in diameter was found under Devil's Tower, Wyoming, claiming it to be an ancient massive tree. While Reuters has fact-checked the source and cannot find any credibility to this story, there are in fact hundreds of well-researched videos and articles on the internet postulating that these thousands of tabletop mountains, plains, and plateaus around the earth are exactly that, petrified stumps of ancient trees of a size we cannot possibly fathom today. If one of the smaller tabletop mountains like Devil's Tower were once a tree with a diameter of 923 feet or roughly 11,000 inches, it would require at least 111,000 gallons of water each week, or roughly 5,800,000 gallons of fresh water every year. One of the bigger ones, like Table Mountain in Cape Town, South Africa, with a diameter of 2.3 miles, or 145,000 inches, would require at least 1,451,000 gallons of water a week, or roughly 75,452,000 gallons of fresh water every year. Now, there are literally thousands of these things all around the world, and one could imagine an ancient world much like the movie Avatar, only with trees much, much bigger than that movie. But where would all of the water come from to keep these trees alive? Trees cannot live on the salt water of our oceans and seas. Many of the ancient cosmologies depict their belief in our world as an enclosed terrarium, resting on or perhaps floating on a giant foundation of what might be a pure fresh water table, a perfect source and delivery system for the hundreds of trillions of gallons of fresh water it would have taken for thousands of trees of such magnitude to grow, live, and thrive in. Many of these mesas and tabletop mountains have giant waterfalls pouring either off of them or out of the sides of them, but have no lake on top and are too flat to collect any amount of water or rain of such volume. So where is the water coming from? If you've ever chopped down a tree or removed a tree branch, you'll notice it can still leak root sap and water for months to even years after it's been cut down. By coincidence, these tabletop mountains seem to have the same growth rings we find in trees. All over the world, massive ancient tunnel systems have been discovered underneath mountains, stretching unimaginable vast distances. Archaeologists are dumbfounded as to how on earth our ancestors could have dug all of these tunnels and why they would have done it. Today, we have modern advanced technological maser drilling machines to make our deep underground military bases and our tunnel systems, even for trains and undersea motor vehicle tunnels. But how then did the ancients dig them with these primitive tools? Well, what if they didn't? What if they are simply nothing more than the underground root systems from ancient trees of a size we cannot even comprehend? You see, if these tabletop mountains were actually giant trees, they appear to have been purposefully and skillfully chopped down by someone of the size, stature, and likes of the legendary Paul Bunyan and his axe, and then hauled away by his titanic ox babe, or even perhaps something else of the likes. But that sounds ludicrous, unless, of course, we believe the ancients had some kind of technologically advanced gear machinery that was able to undertake a task such as chopping down a mountain-sized tree, which seems laughable. Or at least a little bit. The titans on this earth. I traveled Sumatra in early 2005, we were excited to get to the bustling, thriving hippie village of Bukit Lawang that the Lonely Planet and our friends who had been there previously had raved about. The problem was, when we got there was no more Bukit Lawang. Excessive logging in Banda Aceh, over 237 miles away, had created a flood the year before that wiped out the entire village over one horrific night, leaving only 2 hilltop hotels and the orangutan reserve. It was as if the place had never existed. Trees and shrubs soak up water and keep our soil sturdy. On a world scale, what would happen to the soil if thousands of 2 to even 10-mile-high trees were to be cut down and logged? And where would all of the underground water go that was normally soaked up by these trees? In fact, all around the world, and the northern parts especially, we find a strange phenomenon called circle lakes, table lakes, or sometimes crater lakes, that look as if they were once giant tree trunks that have either been blown down by the wind or literally ripped out by the roots and left a giant fresh groundwater puddle. The strange legend of Paul Bunyan comes from Wisconsin and Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes, where many of these circle lakes can be found. In fact, on the other side of the world, in Norway, Finland, and Sweden, also known for their many lakes, we find the same thing in their mythologies. Tales of trolls, ice giants, titans, gods, or creatures larger than mountains carrying enormous trees as clubs, swords or axes, etc. And one has to wonder at the origins of such mythologies. Is it possible that there really were giant titanic humanoids who did the same thing we little humanoids do? Cut down the one thing on this planet that was soaking up the groundwaters from below to use for whatever reasons we ourselves use wood and trees for: shelter, vehicles, tools, fire, etc. And that these titans caused their own demise via great groundwater flooding?
So they project the image around the ball, and that's how they came up with the globe.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
That's why it's so hard to convince you you've been fooled.
I thought the globe was more or less a given thing. The more I saw, the more was fake. Was the moon a junkyard, the ISS a sham? When I wanted answers, I got spam. Then I saw the way. Now I'm a flat earther. There is no curve, no globe in my mind. The earth is flat. We're the believers, don't hate the deceivers, those who lie.